Well, I think it's safe to say Valentine's Day is officially ruined.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats post-game show, live from Studio K, presented by the fine folks over at Circle K. And man, does this lost music twice in a row feel bad, Kevin Thomas, as the Arizona Wildcats drop this one to Texas Tech, 78-75, winning most of the game. And then Texas Tech at the end just finds a way to make a couple shots that the Arizona Wildcats just could not match, and this one ends in another defeat. Back-to-back losses for Tommy Lloyd's team, back-to-back losses for a team that was previously undefeated, and of course, the losses don't just stop there as one Koa Peat goes down with injury as well, Kevin. Not the best game from the Arizona perspective here, especially not the best way to start the Alchemy Arena era here in Tucson as the women's team drops their game earlier this morning as well in overtime. 2 overtime losses in the Alchemy Arena. We won't put that on McKale. We won't put that kind of smut on McKale's name. But how are we doing, Kevin? How are we feeling? And how are the vibes there in that building?
If I'm to be honest with you, I'm hungry. That is first and foremost. But honestly, this was a bloodbath of a game, as we said in the thumbnail. This was practically MMA out there at times. It was an absolute war on every possession. I think the Arizona basketball account said that themselves, that it was war on every possession. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what it was, right? I think that this is a game where Arizona is a couple of good plays away from coming away with honestly a regulation victory in this one, and a couple plays away from maybe rather a couple stops away from an overtime victory in this one. I think I'll start it here in terms of the game stuff. Uh,
We love Branded Bills.
two,
That's where we're
oh
starting.
yeah,
Because, of course,
yeah,
we're
that is where I want to
presented by
start.
Branded Bills, and brandedbills.com with promo code BBPHNX can get you 15% off. And Kevin, did you see those Branded Bills lids that I was tweeting about earlier today from our beat account?
Oh,
They have some
oh,
new
I have a
space
surprise.
game Branded Bills hats at the bookstore that you can buy. Unbelievable. Branded Bills continues to elevate the game when it comes to Arizona Wildcats headgear.
No, totally. And honestly, I have a surprise for you when I get back to Phoenix, Damon. I will leave
Wow.
that somewhat vague, but it is a branded Bills related surprise. Shout out to one
Wow.
Sheila Chavez for that. So yeah,
Wow.
it's going to be a very good time when I get back to Phoenix and I give Damon his gift from Sheila. But yeah,
It's
what I
funny
was
you
going to
say that,
say is that
Kevin. Bruce Pascoe was tweeting about Sheila earlier in the game, or before the
really,
game today. Yeah, giving her a big shout out. So we love Sheila, appreciate Sheila, of course, and her continued support of this podcast. Sorry to interrupt you there, Kevin.
no, you're good, you're good. But I was just going to say before I forgot, like the my thing with the ending of this game in particular against this Arizona team, you cannot allow two straight offensive rebounds to end the game. I think that is something that, in my opinion, if I were to go as far to say, it's not acceptable with the level of rebounding you have with this year's team. Now, however, you don't have Koa Peat out there. You don't got Dwayne Aristode out there. You have much more tired versions of Creas and Awaka because of the style of the game, the minutes they're being asked to play, and Koa not being there. So there's a lot of variables as to why maybe that happened, but and I'm certainly not trying to make any, broad reaching statements about what this team could do going forward. But I will say tonight, you cannot let another opponent come into your house and get two straight offensive rebounds to end the game against you. That's not what I would have expected. Me and Justin Spears and Juan Serrano were watching the ending of this one, and that's exactly what we were saying. We were like, man, two offensive rebounds against this team? Almost unthinkable in a lot of ways. And that's exactly how it went down. And yeah,
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of that, really Texas Tech just found a way to kind of match Arizona at what Arizona is elite at. And Grant McCaslin in the the post-game presser noted that 26 to 26 in paint points between the two teams, and he called it the stat of the night. And it seems clear the game plan is, get it into JT Toppin, and if he can find a way to somehow basically score as many paint points as the entire Arizona team, we have a chance here, especially with their three-point capabilities and how well that they shoot from the perimeter. And we saw that tonight as well, right? So, I mean, Texas Tech is a really damn good team. We both predicted a couple of fairly easy W's on our pregame show, Kevin. And I think that, Texas Tech pretty much played the perfect game of basketball that they needed to play to beat Arizona tonight. Lots to clean up on the Arizona side of things. Not exactly the game that, I think you're hanging your hat on and being super proud of. But, Texas Tech, they deserve a lot of credit for how they played in this one, especially Christian Anderson and JT Toppin in particular.
Yeah, I mean, Force of One in the chat is bringing up that the fact that Texas Tech also made 7 more three-pointers than Arizona, and not only did they make 7 more, they attempted a ton more, and that's not
17 more.
Unheard of. Yeah, that's not unheard of for a team, in Arizona that really doesn't shoot a bunch of threes, and they don't really care if they shoot 10 or if they shoot 100 threes in a game. It's just whatever the game dictates. But I do feel like Texas Tech, they kind of came into this game and said, we're talented enough to make these threes. And if we shoot enough of them, the math is going to work out on our part. I mean, you saw it bear out. I think Christian Anderson went 4 for 9 in the first half, and he had all 3-point attempts as his field goals. Donovan Atwell ends up hitting the biggest shot of the game for Texas Tech, 9 3-point attempts. Like, that was clearly a part of the game for Texas Tech, was to beat Arizona up in the paint, try to make it a zero-sum game on paint points and rebounds, and outshoot them from the perimeter. Because, I mean, look, if you're going to be a team that lives by the two, you also got to die by the two. And by that, I mean you have to make your shots. You have to make your free throws. And when a team on the other side of you is hurling up a bunch of threes, and they're as talented as Texas Tech is, and they're as physical and as solid of rebounders and as well coached as they are, and they have maybe the 2 best guys on the court, definitely tonight, but maybe the 2 best guys on the court on any night, that's how you lose a game. You have to make the plays, and Arizona did not make the plays. Texas Tech did make the plays tonight. I know that sounds super cliche, but we're talking about a 3-point overtime game. That is exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, we thought that Texas Tech was going to have to get some decent contribution from maybe some more of their more peripheral players, whether it was Lawan Watts or a guy like Jalen Petty, who ended up fouling out, and it ended up being Donovan Atwell, who hit 3 3-pointers. And hit 2 of, I would argue, Kevin, you said the biggest shot of the night for Texas Tech. I would argue the 2 biggest shots of the night for Texas Tech, Donovan Atwell hit in those 2 late 3-pointers, in the way that he kind of, made that Arizona lead evaporate, and then, got the almost the dagger for Texas Tech a little bit later on. So, I mean, that's what they needed probably to kind of, be the marginal difference here, was a couple shots from a guy like Donovan Atwell. But it felt like not only did Texas Tech's 2 stars show up and show out in this game, but it felt like their defensive game plan that Grant McCasland came up with was really, really solid. And for maybe some of the, slack that we, or the things we've said about some of the role players on Texas Tech not being all that great, they clearly know how to play defense at a pretty high level, because it felt like they were just really containing the paint tonight from an Arizona perspective. It wasn't paint dominance like we've seen in essentially every Arizona game this entire season, right?
Yeah, no, and I think, when you bring up the idea of Arizona's twos being a little bit longer than they usually are, I think back to that Kansas game. Unfortunately, I don't have to think back very far, but I do think back to that Kansas game where we talked about, a lot of the reason why Jayden Bradley was ineffective down the stretch against Kansas was because he was taking so many shots that were 1, 2, 3 feet outside of what he usually is hunting for in the mid range, right? It's super long twos as opposed to a free throw line jumper. And I think Texas Tech, what they were able to do in terms of seeing Kansas do that and replicate it with their personnel was incredibly effective. They made it really hard on Matias, I should be saying, Matias Kvas in this one. Now, for my money,
you can
Damon.
Just say Mo.
Yeah, Mo Krivas.
That's why I'm more of a Mo guy myself, and you're definitely more of a government name type of guy, Kevin.
Hmm.
But I like to keep it nice and simple.
Yes. But either way, Krivas was getting hammered in the paint tonight, like he does every night. And I think that they made it really tough on him where ordinarily he's able to catch it and people are very physical with him, but he's at a place on the court where he can just kind of try to go up. We always talk about how he brings the ball down and then goes up. But when you're catching it farther out, you really can't do that because then you're up, you know what's creek without a paddle in the middle of the lane with nowhere to go. And I think Krivas was put in a position where he's catching the ball a foot out from where he wants to. Jayden Bradley's getting his shots a foot out from where he wants to. All credit to Texas Tech defensively. They did an incredible job against Arizona's personnel. And I mean, while we're talking about personnel, Damon, I feel like we would be remiss to go any further into the podcast and not mention the current health updates going on with Arizona basketball as of right now. Tommy Lloyd just got done in the press conference talking about Koa Peat's lower leg injury. He does not have an update as to what that leg injury is, if it's going to keep Koa out for longer than expected. Tommy said that the doctors and the sports physios and all that are working on Koa and figure out what's going on and how long he could be out or if he needs to be out for any additional time or what that is. But I texted you at the beginning of this game and I felt like Koa Peat just did not have the same lift that he usually does. Koa Peat did not have the same level of intensity that he usually does, and it didn't feel like an effort issue. It felt like he just couldn't get there. And he took a little bit of a hit, a little bit of a bump early on in this game. Comes off the court, doubles over, at the knees, and is grabbing at his lower leg. And I'm like, it's not good. And that's when I texted you and I said, I'm ready to say it. Like Koa Peat's banged up out there. He's either hurt, tired, or both. Because I know people have been getting on Koa Peat about his starts, about some of the statistical things. But I mean, if he's not 100%, like Koa Peat's like a running back. He's got to be at 100% to really impact the game. And I feel like, if this team is going to be without Koa Peat, it did not sound like it was going to be a very serious injury with lots of timeout. But if he does miss another game, if he like this is a crazy stretch for him to miss a game, right? So Arizona is really going to have to for lack of a better phrase, we need some red line injected right now into Arizona basketball because it's next man up. We saw what CD Gay was able to do tonight. Tommy Lloyd spoke about, CD Gay, his minutes might be seeing an increase going forward, and we like what we've seen with CD Gay. Now, I don't want it to be in nearly as high of a leverage situation as maybe against ranked Texas Tech, but yeah, with Koa Peat out, you're going to have to see some other guys step up. Who is that going to have to be? It's going to have to be Tobe Awaka. It's going to have to be like Karchenkov with his offensive production, and probably CD Gay on both ends, just supplementary. So, yes, lower leg injury for Koa Peat does not seem to be too serious. Still awaiting updates. And then the other one, real quick, Dwayne Aristode. I just thought this was interesting. Out with an illness announced yesterday, Damon. Tommy Lloyd was asked by Bruce Pascoe in the presser about the health of Dwayne Aristode and if he's expected to come back for Wednesday, I think is the next game. Wednesday's game against BYU. I should know. A lot going on recently at PHNX headquarters. But anyway,
Yeah,
either
BYU.
way, yes, Tommy Lloyd actually kind of said that it's not out of the question that Dwayne Aristode could miss another game with this illness. It seemed like it was that serious of an illness that he needed to potentially miss one. And obviously he could heal. He could get become healthy and then not miss any more time, right? But
What does
Tommy
he
just
have?
didn't
The
want to be
plague,
definitive.
Kevin?
I don't know. Apparently he's got the flu. I don't know. But, Tommy just didn't want to be definitive and say he's going to come back. And then obviously if he doesn't get there and he misses the next game, it's going to be a bigger deal. So, yeah, those are the injury updates at this time. I feel like Koa Peats is the more honestly concerning one at this moment.
We call that the Eric Ruby flu around here at PHNX HQ. But yeah, I mean, Dwayne Aristode, not great to not have him there. And obviously, when you're short on your 8-man rotation, you're down to 7. And then you lose another in Koa Peat, who plays such a bulk share of the minutes. I mean, that's going to take a huge hit on the roster. So Dwayne Aristode, if Koa Peat's going to miss any time, we need Dwayne Aristode back as soon as possible just to kind of supplement some of those minutes and give him a little bit more extended run, right? But it's good to hear that, from your perspective at least, that Koa Peat's injury doesn't sound like it's going to be long-term kind of debilitating. I do think that what Roberto puts here in the chat, though, like he talks about, him playing through a broken hand in high school. I think Koa's as tough as it gets, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Arizona medical staff is saying you're not really, you're whatever is going on right now is not helping this team. and we need to get you back to finding a way to help you help this team. So I wouldn't be shocked if it was more their call than his call, based off of kind of the drop in levels that we've seen from him in recent games here. And so yeah, I mean, hopefully Koa Peat is all right. We'll continue to update you as we learn more on that situation. And yeah, need Dwayne Aristode back as soon as possible. We got Saul Bookman back here in the building. We're gonna bring him on in a second here from the McKale Center floor. But first, we got to hit our first ad break on the AZ Wildcats post-game show. So please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and drink some water if you haven't done so. Stay hydrated, people. But first, I want to talk to you guys about my friends over at Phoenix Raceway. Let's talk a little bit about Phoenix Raceway. We all know that Arizona is one of the best sports states in the entire country, and of course Phoenix being one of the best sports cities when it comes to all types of sports, everything except for hockey essentially these days. Too soon. But we guys, it's going to be a weekend like no other out there at the Phoenix Raceway this weekend, because it's going to be a combination of both NASCAR and NTT IndyCar series. So they are combining the best of both worlds, and you get a front row seat to all of it. It's going to be so much fun. The intensity of the race weekend is back, with engines firing, the smell of the rubber, the crowd erupting as the field charges into turn one. Guys, you want to be there for that. It just brings fans closer together. It's the sport that brings fans the closest together, considering the party that it is out there at Phoenix Raceway. So go check it out for yourself. And the race weekend that is really unlike any other out there at 2026 Spring NASCAR weekend at Phoenix Raceway, making history with NASCAR and NTT IndyCar series sharing the same track on the same day, and you'll want to be a part of it and say that you were there. NASCAR and NTT IndyCar series weekend at Phoenix, March 5th through 8th, and secure your seats now with the link in our description below. We are also talking about our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Kevin, do you have anything on Gila River?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I mean, I feel like I know this company like the back of my own hand. You know what I mean? Whether it's Wild Horse Pass, V Kiva, Lone Butte, or Santan Mountain, Gila River is going to bring the Vegas vibes, and all you got to do is bring you, because you do you. When you're at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, they got showgirls, chef-driven dining, all types of pop-ups and interactive experiences. And that's not even to mention the thousands upon thousands of slots and live table games that you can get into over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Hell, I might even stop at Gila River on the way back home just because I'm feeling a little froggy, Damon. But yeah, look, check out Gila River. They bring Vegas, you bring you. It's that easy of a deal.
Only thing that'll make you feel better after an Arizona Wildcats loss, winning some money out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Maybe winning yourself a Corvette with their Corvette giveaway, Kevin. They're giving away 4 Corvettes at each of their locations from now until April 30th. So don't miss your chance to accelerate into luxury. Play, earn, and win at any of our 4 casino locations. Visit playatgila.com for more details. We are back here on the AZ Wildcats post-game show. And, of course, we do have our guy, Saul Bookman, in the wings, ready to talk here, ready to get into it, as I'm sure he has plenty of thoughts on how this one went down. Saul, how are we doing, my guy?
I'm fine. I'm good. Listen, I just want to say, like, Tommy's talked about it multiple times, and he said that, like, we're not going undefeated. Like, we're gonna have some bumps in the road here and there. And listen, like, I in this instance, it's really weird to say talk is cheap, show me. but like, this team just took their lumps 2 in a row, both winnable games, and they didn't execute at the end of these games. And you expect a little bit more from this team at this point. But I think tonight was a little bit different than against Kansas, just because I do feel like this team was a little banged up. They were a little, they're feeling a little weathered down. And I would say this: if we expect the team to be built for it, then we should be built for it, right? Fans should be
Not
built
even
for it.
that,
But you
though.
just
It's like we just gotta get used to it. To your point, like we have to become built for it. This is Big 12 basketball. I was talking to Juan Serrano about it on the walk down to the press room, Saul. Like, welcome to the Big 12, folks. This is not the Pac 12 where you can just take for granted that any slight challenge of a team coming into your home arena is going to get whooped on the way out. Like if you don't execute, you're going to lose in the Big 12
Yep.
conference. And we were talking about it before you came on, Saul. Like we can, and I'm sure you will on McKale Madness, and I'm sure we will on the AZ Wildcats pod. But we can get into the weeds about this game all night, right? But what it came down to was Texas Tech came into your house and executed, and down the stretch, you did not execute to the highest level like Texas Tech did.
Yeah, no, there was a couple instances that were kind of uncharacteristic, and one of them, listen, I you know how much I love Jayden Bradley, but when JT Toppin cut down to the block and Atwell was in the corner and then flashed up as he went down to the block, you could see Jayden Bradley like look down and look at his man, which he's supposed to do, and then he looked down again to see like where JT Toppin was, just in case he was going to make a move. But by that time, Atwell had read that, went to the corner, he lost his man, 3-point shot. Now you're down by 2 with 17 or with like 9 seconds or 17 seconds left to go. Like that's a crucial blow for your senior to make in such an inopportune time. That's a 40% 3-point shooter, folks. You cannot leave Atwell open. I don't care what he was doing the rest of the game, right? And then the same thing in overtime. You have Braden Burries go for the steal, exposing Atwell wide open in the corner. Ivan Karchenkov has to run clear across the court to try and rotate and recover another 3. Like, you can't do that against a team that shoots the 3 at the clip that the Texas Tech Raiders do. And really, the only 2 guys on the court that you really have to pay attention to are Christian Anderson and Atwell. Those 2 guys on the perimeter, and then JT Toppin obviously down low on the block. And listen, they knew what their bread and butter was, and because Arizona was hesitant to adjust or throw some kind of wrinkle at JT Toppin down low on the block every time they did a pick and roll with Awaka and Karchenkov, and they had Karchenkov bodying up JT Toppin. That's a mismatch. Like, that's just a mismatch. JT Toppin's too well schooled in the Big 12 to think that Ivan Karchenkov is going to be able to get one on him. And Karchenkov is a phenomenal defender, but he's just not built for that size and that creativity yet. And so, like, I was a little disappointed with the creativeness on the defensive end, the wrinkles that you need to show on that side. So, like, overall, am I panicking? No, like, not even a little bit. Like, this team lost 2 in a row tonight. You could tell that they were getting through it. This was as battle tested of a game, quote unquote, that you could possibly have. I would have loved for them to be able to pull it out, to be like, man, everything was everything was working against them. The refs were working against them. The shooting was working against them. The 3-point shooting was working against them. Everything was going against them, and they still found a way to win. Instead, we're talking about them melting down towards the end of the second half, up by 7 with under 4 left to go, and you've still found a way to kind of give it away. You got to execute. You got to be better than that. But I think there are some things that Tommy's going to look at with this game. To me, this was more obvious breakdowns than what happened against Kansas, which I think is a good thing because you had clear-cut things that from a player standpoint and a coaching standpoint that you have to clean up, that you have to shore up, because you haven't really seen the level of propensity on the offensive side like Texas Tech has, even with Kansas. To me, Kansas, I'm not going to say fluke. They played good, but I felt like that was, home environment, funky things can happen, whatever. Tonight, in your own house, I think there was a couple things that they need to switch up a little bit. And for all those people out there talking about this is why we need a more extensive rotation and blah, 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 blah. Like, get the out of here. Like, look at every team in the country. They go 7-8 deep. Like, that's it. Even tonight with Texas Tech, they had only 5 guys that played over 25 minutes. That's it. The other guys were under 20. And the 4 other guys, 3 of them played less than 10 minutes. So don't sit there and tell me that, like, oh, this is the reason why Arizona lost because Tommy hasn't, developed his, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th guy on the bench. Get out of here with that mess. CD Gay got a little bit of run. But you can see, if you can't see it right now, I don't know what to tell you. CD Gay is not ready. He's going to get spot minutes. And in those spot minutes, he better be pinpoint. But it's still going to take a little bit of time to get to where he can contribute. And you hope you won't really need to use him because Aristode and Koa Peat will come back at some point. And go back to your Koa Peat point, by the way, with the injury. I suspect that it's a high ankle sprain because of the way his leg was taped. It looked very much like a high ankle sprain. If it is a high ankle sprain, that limits your mobility significantly, and it takes a little bit longer of a time to come back. I imagine with the 4 days in between Monday and now, they did all the rest and recovery possible. He gave it a go. He didn't look right when he was out here, and they decided to sit him out, which I think you took the precaution, and that's the right move. He's got 3 more days until they got to play BYU, and then he's got another 2 days before they play probably the toughest game of the season in Houston at Houston. So not all is lost. We're going to be all right, but plenty to work on.
Can I ask you another defensive question, Saul, by chance? Because we were talking a little bit about some of the small things that Arizona was doing later in the game, like some of the wrinkles specifically. But I think like one thing that it was clear, at least to me, that Tommy Lloyd and company said, all right, tonight this is our MO with the pick and roll. Because as we talked about on our pregame show, like the Toppin Anderson pick and roll is Texas Tech offense. That is like the elixir of life for them. If Arizona, was defending the pick and roll with Toppin and Anderson, they would have the guard defending Anderson just chase him if he kept the ball, right? And then let the big stay on Toppin. But if it was anybody else, maybe outside of Lawan Watts, they were just switching it and letting it go, right? So what did you see with their pick and roll defense tonight, Saul? And do you think it kind of kept up throughout the course of the game?
I mean, I think Tommy was confident in just living or dying by the switch. And Toby did a good job on Christian Anderson when he switched up on him. Christian Anderson was lighting the world on fire in the first half. Second half pretty much went pretty quiet. Like, didn't really do much. He tried to penetrate, couldn't really get a shot off in the lane. Like, they did a good job against him. It's just the problem is that when you have to focus so much on him, you expose yourself to other people potentially, and that's exactly what happened with JT Toppin. JT Toppin's he's probably going to be player of the year in this conference. So like we could stop with the like outrage. Like he's a good player. Like so, I'm not saying you guys are out, having outrage, but I thought what they were doing to Christian Anderson specifically, they were hugging his hip after he got off in the first half. Towards the end of that first half, they were really hugging that hip. The hedge was coming. They were trying to push him out a little bit further, which was happening. They were starting their offense a little bit further out than they like to. But they made a shrewd adjustment. They got into that pick and roll much faster. And instead of going and forcing the issue, Christian Anderson was either giving it up or giving it up to JT Toppin. And then JT Toppin would then rotate the ball, get back down to his position, and then they would just rotate the ball and get the ball over to JT Toppin. They used other players to kind of supplement what Christian Anderson was doing, but none of them were really that effective. Yeah, I mean, this was essentially a 3-man game with Atwell, Anderson, and the gravity of Anderson in the second half was still there. It still existed. You couldn't just leave him open. I'm surprised he missed that 3, at the end of the game. I thought it was buckets, and he had a couple other open looks in the second half as well in overtime, and he didn't cash in. So he was clearly what Arizona did was threw him off. But the problem is they have JT Toppin who made up a lot of that difference, and so many loose balls tonight, so many loose balls, and it felt like none of them went in Arizona's favor. That's part you just tip your cap. Like that is one of the shortest teams in the country, folks.
Yeah,
and they played more physical than Florida. They played more physical than hell. I would even say UConn tonight. They were about it. They were about that fight tonight. And Grant McCassin talked about like the minute you get on the court, the first action, you better put a body on a body. You better be the one that's imposing your will, because if you don't, you're going to get dog walked out of here. And that's what Texas Tech did tonight. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap.
I wanted to expand a little bit more on the JT Toppin side of things and how Arizona kind of attacked him on defense, because it did feel like there was a lot of Karchenkov Island happening, especially in that second half. And it felt like Yvonne was, from a physicality standpoint, at least from my perspective, he was right there with him. It wasn't like JT Toppin was bullying him and putting him under the basket, But JT Toppin he's so experienced. He's done it so many times where he just knows exactly where his spots are, where to release the basketball. He has some of the best post touch I've ever seen at the college level. What are some ways that you would have liked to have seen Tommy get more creative on the defensive end so that maybe Karchenkov wasn't as much on an island like he was in that second half?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think you have to mix up the coverages with JT Toppin. You just have to. He's too good of a player to just pick and roll, bread and butter. Here we go. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know where all my keys are at, and I don't have to really think too much. It's just more of just read and react. I think you could have flashed a double at him a couple times, but when you do that, you got to practice that. So doing that mid game, unless you've practiced it, probably not the best time to do it. But I guarantee they're going to start practicing that because I promise you they're probably going to end up running into Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament. That's what happened last year too. So I would have liked to seen that. And then really, I mean, the other part is like I don't know if I really liked what Arizona was doing offensively too much. I feel like they rely a lot heavily on the 3-man weave and the pick and roll and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more big on big screen action to free up bigs and get them down low a little bit more freer. There was a lot of bodies down there. But again, what did we talk about since the beginning of the season? Unless you prove that you can hit the 3 consistently, teams are going to pack the paint. They'd rather you shoot the 3 than kill them from the inside. And teams are starting to force Arizona to do that. And they're not connecting. They've got to start connecting. Braden Burries hit a couple. I thought Braden Burries was about to have a heater. And then it just kind of stopped. I don't know what happened there. But, yeah, you got to force the issue. Christian Anderson, I still don't know how that wasn't foul number 4. They blew the whistle. They called the foul. Then magically changed it during the middle of the timeout to make sure that he didn't have 4, and they gave it to somebody else. And I'm like, did we get confused on the number? I don't think that's what happened. I think Grant McCaslin was just like, hey, man, that's my star. Don't take him out of the game. And they did.
I mean, I didn't want to say it myself, Saul, but I was thinking decision whatever Texas Tech asks for, I guess, because it felt like they literally were like, no, you can't do that to us. And then the refs were like, you're right. That's a good point. Christian Anderson is pretty good at ball.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. But that's all conspiracy
Is what it is.
theory
I mean, Arizona, obviously, no one is coming up here saying Arizona lost because of the refs tonight. Arizona lost because they couldn't execute down the stretch. And I think that's how a lot of Arizona losses, I'll even argue in the last 2 years, have looked to the teams that are upper echelon. Like, it just feels like you come up a bit short in those final moments, those final sequences where the other team has the shot makers that are coming up with these big moments, and Arizona, conversely, is struggling in the half court to create their own. A big part of that, I think, is Jayden Bradley, right, who is kind of the guy for Arizona in those late game moments, and it just hasn't been Jayden Bradley's night in these in the last 2 games here, Saul. So what do you have for us on your guy Jayden Bradley, who I will say that in the pregame I was saying I think he was going to outplay Christian Anderson. So I'll take the big fat L on that one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's legs to a degree, but overall, I definitely feel like he's getting himself into a position now. There's not a lot of action going on in front of him crossing wise when he does penetrate. I don't know if that's by design, if that's something that maybe they'll take a look at, because there have been times where players have penetrated it, and you'll see a Ron Karchenkov cut baseline, and he'll drop it off for a bucket. Tonight, not so much. It was very much, let me get past this screen, this pick and roll, go to my spots. A couple times it looked like he just slipped. I don't know if it's the shoes or what, but swap those things out and get something a little stickier. But again, you're not going to go 100 for 100. Things are going to happen. You're gonna slip up from time to time. I think he was trying to do a little too much towards the end. I thought it was at a detriment to the team that Delhi wasn't in there on that last possession because I thought, if you were going to shoot a three down by two, why not have that as an option, and have Delhi out there again? That's another 3-point shooter that pulls somebody else outside of the lane to free up the inside, and who knows what happens? Maybe a penetration to the basket and one. I don't know, but again, these are small things. Tommy Lloyd was even surprised that Delhi only played 21 minutes. I'm like, well, you know who has the biggest impact on that? You. So maybe you
You made the
adjust that a little
sandwich, my
bit.
brother. You made the
I
sandwich.
mean, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, and Delhi, I didn't think Delhi played bad at all tonight. I thought he played. I thought he had a decent game. His 3-point shooting is going to be valuable. It's going to be very valuable. And if they don't take advantage of that at some point, like a game like tonight was a good opportunity to see that. And in like the last 15 minutes of the game, I feel like he didn't even see the court.
With Koa
You're
out,
touching.
I really thought that Delhi was going to be massive in that second half. Like I thought that his output was maybe going to determine the outcome of this game, and it felt like early on, like maybe he was going to get going a little bit, and then it kind of died out. No.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly how it felt. He hit that three off of a screen out of bounds play, and I was just like, that's great. That Delhi needs to see that. And then he never really got another shot the rest of the game.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like we're touching on the idea of Tommy Lloyd's coaching in these games and what decisions he's making, right? And I am far, far below the pay grade to be saying what Tommy Lloyd should or should not be doing in these games. But I will pose the question to you, Saul, is I have a feeling that with Koa Peat being banged up, with Dwayne Aristode being sick, with just kind of this being the dog days of the season that you have to get through, I feel like now we're gonna get to see what Tommy Lloyd can do with this year's team in terms of we already talked about it. Like we gave Tommy his flowers for last year's coaching performance. At least I did. I know Damon did as well because we felt like Creas goes down early. That is what the offense was going to be centered around that last year. Obviously, with Caleb Love being that kind of pick and roll partner with him, right? But this year, it's kind of all been smooth sailing, right? You get this group of guys. He compiles them. It's a great group of guys, talented group of guys. The identity is pretty clear. It's going to be a paint offense team. Pardon me, heavy rebounding team as well. But now that's been messed with. Now that you've lost a key cog in that machine, it's. I know Tommy Lloyd can coach, but it's going to be interesting to see how he manages this because people in the chat are bringing up like Bill Self this week, Grant McCaslin this week, both get that much over on Tommy Lloyd, and it was kind of the difference. So how do you see that, Saul? Where do you see Tommy Lloyd going next?
I mean, sure, there's a couple things that could have been tweaked, without a doubt. I'm not going to question Tommy Lloyd in terms of his ability to adjust. I think is he the best in game coach? I don't know. I don't. I wouldn't say that he's like the elite of the elite, but I don't think he's bad. I think he's pretty good. Now, can he make some adjustments? Sure, but when the sauce has been working for 23 out of 24 games, you tend to not like you don't want to rock the boat too much because when you start doing that, it sends the signals to your players that like, oh, maybe everything's not all right. Maybe we've had a little bit of fool's gold, and he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to rock the boat. And so he's going to make subtle adjustments as they go forward. He talked about it in the post game. I asked, did you think about, you know, the potential of sending more doubles or any kind of wrinkles towards JT Toppin? And he even said that, like, yeah, I mean, I thought about that, but we have a process and we work through it, and there's always things that you look at afterwards, and you're like, I wish I would have done that. You know what? That's a good reason for the regular season. And the Arizona Wildcats are 23-2, and they're going to get punched in the face a couple times. They're probably going to get punched at least once or twice more. Got to be ready for that. And they'll adjust. They'll learn from this. They'll grow. And they'll you got to, if you trust your system, you got to trust it all the time. And when you hit this kind of adversity, that's when you really start to have to buy into that system. So you don't want to shift it too much. Otherwise, you send the wrong message to the players, and then all hell will break loose, and you don't want that to happen.
For the record, I wasn't saying that I'm concerned that Tommy Lloyd is or will not make adjustments, or I don't think that he should rock the boat. But I think my more direct question to you was like, we're identifying like teams being able to push Tommy Lloyd's team off of their game, off of their pedestal, right? The shots coming from farther on the court than they usually would. how do you see Tommy Lloyd adjusting to that more so is what I'm saying. Like, what are some,
Oh yeah,
maybe schematic changes that if you were in his shoes that you'd be thinking of, okay, maybe next time out, I want to experiment with this.
yeah. I mean, listen, they look at the high low quite often, and they don't really pull the trigger on it enough, in my opinion. I think they got that high low like as soon as they come over half court. That high low's there. I would say half the time, and half the time they look it off. Well, guess what? Stop doing that. If you got your man sealed above the block, hit him. Don't even hesitate. Hit him. Like, and then I would say the other part is like what teams are trying to do is they're anticipating that over the top throw and then trying to get to that double team or sneak around the back. Okay, well instead seal them off with your face at the rim in front of you. So like face at the rim in front of you right here, right? And instead of sealing them off to post up, just throw the lob and like hit the little bunny. Like it's nice and easy, especially for somebody like Creas. And so that way that double that's coming around the backside, it's not a factor. Nobody's getting up there to stop Creas that high. And then the other thing is like, okay, fake the double and then have some action on the backside. Like they do that to a certain degree, but like I said, when you have big on big with Koa and Tobe or Koa and Creas or Creas and Tobe, like let those two guys work with each other to free each other up. And I don't think I see that enough. I would like to see that a little bit more. I don't think Tommy Lloyd was outcoached at Kansas. I don't think he was outcoached tonight. I think I think there were some wrinkles that he could have used, but I also think that the ball just didn't bounce their way. I think the injuries piled up in this particular game. In the other game, I feel like every bounce went Kansas's way. So, like, it is what it is. I think that there was some egregious officiating with Creas never going to the foul line. Tonight, I don't feel that is so much. But I will say that, like, yeah, he could always improve. But I don't feel like either coach really outcoached him. They weren't running some funky sets that, you just completely caught you off guard. No, there were some basic fundamental defensive breakdowns by players that have a lot of experience that shouldn't be doing what they did. Braden Burries is going to go back and look and realize that, like me going for that steal at half court, probably shouldn't have done that because then you left Atwell wide open for a three. Okay. Jayden Bradley is one of the best defenders on the team. I mean, 99 of 100 times, he's not going to make that mistake. He's not going to lose the best shooter on the team in the corner. That was 1 of 100. So, you tip your cap and you move on.
I do think McCaslin deserves a lot of credit for Texas Tech's defensive setup in particular and the way that they kind of made life difficult on Arizona, because that was not a conventional, like, let's just throw it down low and dominate the paint versus a team that's smaller than us type of game, like we've seen most of the season. So I will say that for Arizona offense versus Tech defense side of things, I do think that Tommy got outcoached.
I could see why you're there. I can, and I won't disagree with you. I think you've got to throw some different things on there. Now remember, you have Coach Rem. I forget what his last name is. Bacchus, I think.
Bacchus?
Coach Bacchus. Yeah, who was on Tommy's coaching staff, now is coaching for Texas Tech on Grant McCaslin's staff. Like he knows every set that Tommy wants to run. And he knows what it looks like, what it feels like, the whole 9 yards. Tommy knows that.
Yeah.
So Tommy should definitely have prepared a couple other wrinkles just in case. And maybe tonight he didn't.
Now, I mean, we spoke with Tommy in the presser, Saul. Like, I asked him about like the intimacy of knowledge between like him and Grant McCaslin, and not only that, but you add Rem Bacchus into that mix, and all of a sudden, like Texas Tech knows Tommy Lloyd like the back of, I don't know, a tortilla, so to speak, right? Like, it feels like there's a level of familiarity there that makes it difficult, right, on Tommy to just come out and do the same thing that Arizona's been doing, which has been beating teams and beating them up, right? Grant McCaslin, like you said, and like Damon said, deserves a ton of credit for, and I don't know if you were in the green room when we were talking about this or not, but taking what Bill Self's game plan defensively was against Arizona and form fitting it to the personnel he had and making it work for them. I think that that's really what he deserves a lot of credit for because, yeah, JT Toppin, I think second ever player with a 30-point triple double or double double, pardon me, against the number 1 overall team. That's special. Christian Anderson, performing and being able to run the offense the way he is, special. but Grant McCaslin definitely was putting his players in some really advantageous positions tonight.
Well, advantageous because of the style that Arizona plays as well. Arizona is not going to go zone. They're not going to, do anything exotic on defense. They play a hardcore man-to-man defense, a lot of switching. And Grant McCaslin knows that, so he's going to try and take advantage of that. I think the thing that Grant McCaslin does perhaps better than anybody else in the country, because listen, folks, they beat Houston. They beat Duke. Now they just beat Arizona. It's not like they're beating scrubs and they just had the night of their lives tonight. No, they're a good effing team. Like, they're a really good team. And so, like, Grant McCaslin knows how to coach. He knows how to get his guys absolutely ready. He's got dogs over there. Those dudes, they do things differently over in Texas Tech. Like, and because Coach McCaslin is one of the best coaches in the country for sure. And he had his guys ready to go tonight. And again, like, the psychology of this whole thing is, when you're going into McKale, you better be ready to go. Like, that's just what it is. And they were ready to go tonight. If the shoe was on the other foot and they were in Lubbock, you got the number one team coming to the country. He would have had them ready to go there too. It's the number one team in the country. Well, now Arizona's probably not going to be number one come Monday. They'll probably drop to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know where they'll drop. But I would assume Michigan will be number one if Michigan doesn't lose. And so be it. Who gives a crap? Like, as long as they still get in the 1 or 2 line come tournament time, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, very
I agree
true.
with you.
The seeding at the end of the day is what matters, and you just can't let this kind of snowball, right? I mean, 2 losses in a row is what it is. Not used to it in the Tommy Lloyd era, that's for sure, because in large part you're playing Pac-12 opponents in a lot of that scheduling, and you're not necessarily playing non-conference opponents back to back like Auburn and Alabama maybe on this year's schedule, but. This back-to-back losses, unfamiliar territory here on an undefeated season.
Real quick,
yeah.
Real quick before I do take off, I just have one last little nugget. I don't have any notes tonight. I did have some notes, but the game got so intense that I wanted to focus on what was going on in the court, and I just kind of lost. I do think that this has been one hell of a week. Not only with the Kansas game, but also to double down with College Game Day here and all the hype. And you saw how much the players were on social trying to pump this up and make it, a big deal. And I think the mental, stress of being undefeated until Monday might have finally caught up to them. They have a lot of injuries going on right now. They're a banged up team. Every team's going through it. BYU, that's coming on Wednesday, just had a significant injury today with Richie Saunders, who took a nasty spill, potential torn ACL. We don't know officially yet, but it is a leg injury of some sort. I would highly doubt that he would be ready to go on Wednesday if it's not a torn ACL. Like, everybody's going through it, folks. It's going to be all right. They'll bounce back on Wednesday. They'll get the dub, and then they'll fly to Houston. And if they beat Houston next week, guess what? Everybody's going to be like, oh, everything's okay. I never had any doubt. You got to be built for it, folks. Don't panic yet.
Got to be built for beating BYU on Wednesday, though, first, because that's a big one, especially with Houston on the horizon. That makes that BYU game even that much more important, and can't wait to dive into that one. Of course, Saul will be there, McKale Center, for the game on Wednesday, and then we got McKale Madness on Thursday right afterwards at 7 p.m. Saul Bookman, Corey Williams, and, of course, Kevin Thomas. What do we got, Kevin?
Saul, can I broach an uncomfortable topic with you? McKale
Sure,
Madness.
do you have to do a second? You have to do a second ad read or no?
No. This is real quick.
Okay.
McKale Madness. We named this last year. You and I, this was our brainchild. You and I, right? Now with the Alchemy Arena, do we have to be the McKale Madness at Alchemy Arena podcast?
Would you want to call it ma'am?
I wouldn't want to call it that at all, quite frankly.
No. It's McKale Madness.
Okay, good. Some
Forever
things are
and
still
always.
sacred. I can sleep peacefully tonight.
Listen, I'm not. This is no disrespect to the sponsors and, like, hey, cool, $27 million, awesome, but I'm not calling it Acme Arena. I'm just not.
Neither is you and everybody else, Saul. So
there was when they announced the partnership, I kind of felt bad for the donors because they were right here on the court. There was booze. It was just booze.
Loud ones.
Like the students booed. And then once they were done with their little anointing, everybody kind of golf clap because they realized it was $27 million. But I don't know, $1.8 million per year for 15 years. I don't know if that was.
Baseline forever defaced.
It feels
Tough,
like with
tough scene.
inflation that thing could potentially have we look back on it and go, really under $2 million per year on average. That's fairly low, but I guess time will
with
tell on that one.
with inflation, I feel like you just got a dollar store price for an elite sponsorship of an elite program. But that's just my
It's the
two
best right
cents.
now publicly available in the Big 12. However, if Arizona is able to keep performing in this conference over the next 15 years, you got to believe the valuation of the once Pac-12 team that's now officially a hardened, battle-tested Big 12 valued team.
What
I don't
what's
know. I'll
what's
let you do the
Marriott?
math.
What's Marriott paying for the Marriott Center?
No idea. Off the top of my
It's
head, no
got to be
idea.
it's
I'd have
got
to
to be
look it
more
up.
than two. It's got to be
Well,
more
they're
than
private.
$1.8 million a year.
So we have the largest public deal, but BYU being a religious institution is private.
That's crap.
It's
That's
possible
crap.
Baylor has a higher one as well. TCU could be a part of that. So you think about the private schools. We're not privy to that information.
Arizona State. Ah,
No.
Oh, wait. Oh, my bad. Oh, I forgot.
That
I
no.
forgot they
that's
had
a
a
good
program.
point. Another massive win for the Sun Devils today. An extend Bobby sign on College Game Day. Of course, Arizona goes on to lose. So people celebrations in Tempe, the things that they
Oh
celebrate,
yeah.
the
Oh
things they
yeah.
celebrate.
They're going crazy. They're talking about like we're in their head, or we're forever, or they're forever in our heads because we had a fire Bobby sign. It's like no, it's called trolling, there, guy. It doesn't matter. You guys are irrelevant. So irrelevant in basketball. Don't even talk to us.
Like taking victory
Anyway,
laps on getting your coach an extend Bobby sign on game day when we're trolling and we're making fun of you. What are you celebrating? You guys are a joke. I
also,
honestly baffled by that today.
I'm gonna throw some shade right now.
Please
Absolute
do.
shade. You guys, we all live in Phoenix, okay? But we cover the Wildcats 365 all day, every day, okay? And then all of a sudden, you got local outlets that never talk about the Wildcats. Never. All of a sudden now, because this team has gotten so much national recognition, they feel like they need to send people down here to cover these games. And I'm like, you weren't with me when I was shooting in the gym. Like, get the heck out of here. Like, that's
Oh,
complete BS. You got guys that don't know shit about this program tweeting about like, oh, like get out of here. Get out of here. No, this is not for you. You don't even know how to deal with March Madness, let alone deal with the University of Arizona and the premier program. If you're going to talk about us, then talk about us all the time. But just don't bring them up because it's the flavor of the week and everybody else beat you to the punch. Like, be about it or shut the f up, straight up. Like I'm not even trying to hear that. Also, cover the team in your own backyard, which you barely do anyway. So like, and I'm talking about all of them. All of them can get shade. All of them. They barely touch ASU. They never touch U of A until it's the right time, until it's the tournament, and then they can show off how Arizona like lost in the Sweet 16. Dude, you can't even spell Sweet 16. Get the heck out of here, man. I'm not even trying to hear it. Like all these
I
people
think
taking
Saul
up
just echoed in the concourse.
just breathing all the good McKale air. Like, get out of here. We don't need you. We don't need you. No. If you've never lived in Tucson, if you've never lived in Tucson, then you can't be about Tucson.
stay away. Stay away. I love it,
Yeah.
Dude,
Saul. I mean, Saul
Yeah.
Bookman is always bringing the energy on this
Just
podcast.
hey, just hit us up for our clips. We'll be more than happy to share. Other than that, go away. Go shoe fly. Don't bother us.
Kevin, did you have
man,
anything for Saul
I was
before
gonna
we get
say,
him on out
Damon,
of
I was
here?
gonna say, I almost tweeted, yeah, just to end up Saul's conversation. I almost tweeted during the game, like, man, to live in Tucson year round again would be a complete dream.
Oh,
Just a complete dream. Like,
I
I
miss you
know that
so
there's a lot of
much.
Phoenicians up there right now that are hearing this, and I know one Shane Diefenbach loves to make this argument of like, you guys hate our city, and then you live in our city. It's like, well,
That's where the jobs
I
are,
literally, what am I supposed to do? Not chase
dude.
my dream? Like, I don't know
If
what to
if
tell you, Shade.
if listen, guys, if we had a choice to work anywhere we wanted to between Phoenix or Tucson, and we could do the same thing, we would all be living in Tucson, all of us. The only reason why I'm still stuck in Phoenix is because I can't sell my house right now. I'm a little flipped. I need to, the housing market hasn't exactly like come down a little bit. So like I'm stuck. I'm stuck with these prices. So like until that happens, like I would love to come down, but I come down almost every other weekend. Like and my in-laws live down. I do Tucson is so much better than Phoenix. It's not even funny. It's not even
It's
close.
not.
I miss it
Yeah.
so much. So much.
It's the greatest
Just the
city
just
on
the
earth
vibe
for
as
a
soon as you
reason.
arrive is just it's community. It's community.
It
That's all I
is.
wanted to say. It's
It is.
community.
It
Phoenix
is.
does not have that. You have to go find it. Tucson, you show up and people are welcoming. They're like, "Oh, you're a part of us." Until you're not. You know what I'm saying? Until you're not. Unless you like switch up and go to the Sun Devil side or something, then we don't want you. Stay over there. But you were saying, Damon, I just wanted to be like, "Yo, community is crazy down here."
I do have one last thing. I promise it's the last thing, Damon.
Oh, hit us.
Shout out. I just want to give a shout out to my guy Brandon. He was playing in a Special Olympics tournament. So I came down here to watch him play. But you know, my guy told me, "Hey, we play at 12," and then he was like, "Psych, it's actually about another hour and a half from now." And I was like, "Bro, I gotta get to the game." So unfortunately, I couldn't see him. But it was really cool to see all the Special Olympic athletes out there hooping. I've never seen a tournament like that before. So shout out to all the Special Olympians out there trying to run some game. Brandon included. I do appreciate that he invited me out. I hopefully I get a chance to see him some hoop at some point. But I just wanted to give him a shout out. Special Olympics, Tucson. Shout out.
Shout out to the Special Olympics. Shout out Saul Bookman, and shout out for you for being a part of this community that we have cultivated here on this podcast. Saul, we appreciate you and your continued coverage of Arizona and just bringing the heat as always on these post-game shows. Of course, follow Saul at Saul_Bookman.
Everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. I promise you, folks, it's gonna be all right.
A little bit of
Was that
perspective
supposed to be
from one
Bob
Saul
Marley or
Bookman.
something?
There you go.
Beautiful. Beautiful singing voice. Saul, safe travels
Yes.
back on up to the valley here, and we'll catch you on Wednesday.
All right, see you guys.
That, of course, was Saul Bookman, the great Saul Bookman, as always. And we got one final ad break to hit here on the AZ Wildcats pod. So leave a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't, and do not go anywhere. We'll be right back in 1 minute. But first, we got to talk about our presenting sponsor of Branded Bills. I'm rocking Branded Bills right now. I got a custom Branded Bills piece of headwear on. Of course, we got Saul Bookman just had a great, another custom PHNX Sports Branded Bills hat that we sell at the All City Network locker on our website here. Kevin's got, of course, the same hat that I got right here.
Should I ruin the surprise, Damon? Should I ruin the surprise?
Kevin?
I'm going to ruin the surprise. Look what Sheila Chavez got me.
Wow.
Ooh. And then look what Sheila Chavez got you, my boy.
Wow. Special, Kevin.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah, shout out to Sheila Chavez. Shout out to Branded Bills. That's how fast Branded Bills is on their branding like that.
Isn't that, I mean, unbelievable. I was just talking about today those special Branded Bills hats that they made for the space game, the space unis coming up. Branded Bills, I mean, they are on top of things, Kevin. These uniforms came out last week, and Branded Bills is already getting hats out saying, hey, you want some of this? Take it. And, of course, Sheila Chavez, we appreciate her as well. Knowing what the people want, right? But Branded Bills is what the people want for the custom headwear and apparel, for the campus collection, the best Arizona Wildcats headwear in the game. Guys, go check it out for yourself and head on over to brandedbills.com. Use promo code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order over at brandedbills.com. What a gift. Sheila Chavez is just awesome, Kevin.
Man.
What a story. What a woman. Like I said, on Bruce Pascoe's social media earlier today, he was shouting her out and she was showing off some of her new merch. How about that Wilbur shirt with the moon and it's half Wilbur's face? I was like, that's one of the hardest shirts I've ever seen in my entire life. And I might need to find a way to get my hands on it. But yeah, awesome stuff there. Appreciate you, Sheila, as always. Brandon Bills is the GOAT, Simon says. But Kevin, before we get on out of here, I had a couple other things I wanted to hit with you. and before we get you traveling back up to the valley, unfortunately, in the case of you, but Krivas, we both tweeted it during the
Yeah.
game. It wasn't as bad as Kansas, like Saul said, but especially early, it felt like they were just allowing insane levels of physicality. What is it about this guy that just makes it where he just can't draw a single foul call?
Man, he lives in a prison of his own creation, but he didn't actually like purposefully create it. He just grew into the body and created the body that Matias Kvas has. He is 7'2" and ungovernable out there. How do you police that genuinely? I know how you call the fouls, but that's in a perfect world, right? I mean, in a realistic world, refs don't want to seem like they're in the pocket of one team, right? So they're not going to reward Arizona if refs called fouls on everything that was a foul against Arizona. Arizona would go to the line 100 times a game. That's just how physical they play. That's the way they want to play basketball. So the refs have to find a line of denomination as to whether they're going to call fouls for Arizona or not. With Krivas, he feels like he gets almost his own rubric because he's 7'2" and he's so big, so strong that as soon as he bumps and goes up, yeah, most times he's getting fouled because not only is he taller than the guy, but he's bigger than him, and that defender has to make up space somehow. So they're going to be extra physical with him. And I think refs kind of, I mean, I don't want to make a crazy comparison, but it's the Shaq thing. It really is. They can't defend him. I'll say fundamentally, right? Because he's so big, you have to do something unique to stop him. So you got to batter him. And if you start battering him from play one, they're probably going to let you do it at minute 42 because that's just how you started the game. And so I think it's another area where Tommy Lloyd and company are going to have to get creative with putting him in positions to succeed. But above all else, and Mo would tell you this himself, I think, based on what Tommy said about their interactions, like he's just got to be tougher on the ball, straight up. Like they're not going to call it. And I think he's done a really good job of not getting as frustrated in the last couple of games as he did at the beginning of the year. I think at the beginning of the year, he kind of let it frustrate him when he didn't get calls that he felt like he deserved. I think now he's doing a better job of playing through that, but I still think he still needs to be tougher on the ball, right? Too many drop, opportunities, too many balls that roll off his foot and out of bounds, like too much of that stuff with Mo Krivas. But I'm with you, Damon. Like that's why I said it on Twitter today. Like I know he's not a perfect player, but we got to talk about the way they're officiating him because it's not fair. The man is getting hacked out there, and they do need to call more of those fouls. Now, before any Texas Tech fans get in here and hear this part, and not the first part of the podcast where we gave you guys a ton of credit for the win, this is not why Arizona lost tonight. Mo Krivas not getting foul calls is not the reason you lose this game. We're having a conversation in a vacuum about the way his season has been officiated. And if you do it by the book, it's been officiated incorrectly, but that's not how life works. So, yeah, you got to find a middle ground, I think, is what I'm really getting at here, Damon. You have to find some sort of fair middle ground for both teams where Mo Krivas can get 2-3 trips at the minimum to the free throw line a game, and the other team is not coming away feeling like, man, every time we touched him, he went to the line. Like you have to find that sweet spot, and it's probably incredibly hard for these refs to do that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A great tweet from Tyler Warden earlier
Yeah,
in the game,
incredible.
talking about how Zach Edey had 436 free throw attempts in his senior year in 39 games, and Krivas has 103 through 24 and a half games. Obviously, Mo Krivas isn't Zach Edey, but the size comparison is what's being made there. And it felt like Edey was getting all these calls because of how big he was, because of kind of the mantra that was built up around him. And Krivas does not get any sort of similar respect. Not that he is Zach Edey, like I said, but I does feel like his size almost works against him. It's the opposite effect. And you're wondering what's going on there. But one thing that Logan brings up here in the chat, Kevin, and I wanted to hit on it. Logan Nels here says that he thinks that Mo is a little bit too predetermined offensively, and that a guy like Tobe Awaka is just a little bit more smooth, goes with the flow of the game. Do you see that at all when you're watching Arizona's two centers?
I mean, I hadn't really thought about it much, but I think that's a pretty smooth observation by Logan. I believe you said it was there in the chat. My little chat is blocked partially. I'm seeing the live chat, but not the thing you put on the screen there. So I think it was Logan, like you said. But yeah, that's a smart observation. Like I feel like Tobe Awaka has a lot more counters to his game than a Mo Krivas does. But I don't know. I really feel like Mo Krivas is executing like his role in a way. I think Tobe Awaka, because of what he can do, maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to really flesh that out too much because I don't really know where I'm going with that. But yeah, I think it's a smart observation by Logan. I do think Tobe Awaka has more counters to his offensive game than Matias Krivas does. I do think Tobe Awaka is more comfortable backing someone down, going to a turn, going back into a different turn, pivoting, looking for a pass out, realizing it's not there, and just going, all right, I'm getting this thing up. They're either going to foul me or I'm making it, right? Like, and if he misses it, it's Tobe Awaka. He's good. You know he's going to fire off for that rebound. So I do think that he is a lot more versatile on the block than a Mo Krivas, but he's not 7'2" like Mo Krivas. Mo Krivas doesn't really. I know I'm gonna say this, but he doesn't really need the versatility to succeed in basketball the same way Tobe Awaka does. Tobe Awaka has made it to this level of the sport because he has an elite rebounder. He is an elite rebounding talent, right? Mo Krivas, and this is all due respect to both those guys. I'm simplifying it down to the brass tacks. Mo Krivas has made it to this point in the game because he's 7'2" and a freak athlete, right? So
Yeah.
like one guy needs more technicality to his game. Tobe Awaka needs more technicality to get more minutes out there because we know he can rebound well, right? But it's about what else you bring to the game. I think Mo Krivas, he brings so much defensively with his size. He brings so much offensively with that same size. He just needs to find more ways to impact the game scoring wise, but it's hard. Like now I'm asking him to be Wemby. You know what I mean? So I think within reason, he's doing as much as he can. He just has to be tougher on the ball and not turn it over so much.
One thing that I didn't like that you said there, Kevin, was that Tobe Awaka is here because of his rebounding. Because when I watch Tobe Awaka, I think he's here because he shoots like Dirk Nowitzki. When he puts his shoulder into a guy, takes that step back, drills it, then top of the key, early shot clock, a couple possessions later, drills a 3-pointer in a dude's mouth. I mean, he might be the greatest player I've ever seen, and that's why he's our king of the court tonight. 16 points, 12 rebounds, 5 offensive, and of course hits the 3-point goggles celebration as Kevin was doing in lead up to this. Tobe Awaka was unreal tonight. He was the reason Arizona was frankly winning this game for large portions of it, because he just was kind of in full takeover mode, especially on the offensive rebounding side of things. And then it felt like at the end of the game, Texas Tech got those offensive rebounds back in huge moments. Ended up being a 13-12 offensive rebounding margin in favor of the Wildcats. But it doesn't feel that way because the last like 3 O boards went to Texas Tech. But Tobe Awaka was great in this game, and having to fill in for Koa Peat, like he had to play a lot more, and he certainly did his job.
I agree with you. And I think if we're going down to those last 2 offensive rebounds for Texas Tech as well, this is by no means an excuse for Arizona, but I think it's added context, right? Usually you got Koa Peat out there to have an added body to box out. That's a fact, right? So without Koa Peat out there, you're going with your instinctual rebounding. And yeah, Arizona has a ton of very high level physical capable rebounders. Braden Burries is an incredibly capable rebounder. Ivan Karchenkov is an incredibly capable rebounder. We know Krivas is an incredibly capable rebounder. Same thing with Awaka. But I think when you don't have that extra, that one other body, that tall, large body from Chandler, Arizona, to put on somebody, it's going to make it easier for Texas Tech. And I think we saw that with those last 2 offensive rebounds. But it still can't happen. It still cannot happen. But I do think Koa Peat being out there might have made it a little bit harder on Texas Tech to get those last 2 O boards. I did see someone in the chat that I wanted to talk about. I think it was, yes, Michael Tanis in the chat
Yes.
asked, do we
I was
believe
gonna
Koa
ask
Peat
you
was
the same
hurt,
thing.
scared, or is he pulling a Peterson? I just wanted to set this straight now. Koa Peat is not the, I don't feel like going today kind of competitor. Koa Peat is the same cat that, I don't know if you know this story or not, but if you have listened to this podcast a lot, you probably heard this story. Koa Peat's the same cat that competed, all the rounds of a state championship playoff with a broken hand because he did not want to stomach going out of his high school career without 4 straight chips. 4 straight chips. And the reason he wanted to play was to make that history and be part of the driving force behind it, even though he had a broken hand. And Roberto said it earlier in the chat, like, well, didn't he play with a broken hand against, all these high school teams? And look, like, it's one thing to play with a broken hand against Sunny Slope. It's another thing to play with a bad leg against Houston, against BYU. Like, Koa Peat can affect the game with a broken hand because he can still get that jump, that lift, that physicality with his game. If you got a bad leg, man, it's a lot harder to get that explosion out there on the court, especially in the Big 12. So I honestly, I feel like Koa Peat, I've been thinking it for a couple games, but I haven't wanted to say it because I feel like it's demeaning to the work he puts in. But it has felt like he's been banged up and like he's getting that running back attrition, hitting that freshman wall of being like, damn, I'm getting beat every night. And not in like he's getting beat up, but just he's beating up dudes. Dudes are beating up on him back, and that's just the way Arizona plays. But that wears on you no matter how many days of rest in between you get. So he's not sitting out. He's not pulling a Peterson. He's not, you know, I don't know, doing a Paul Pierce halftime, going to take a what. No, he's not doing that. Koa Peat, if he's missing time, it's because he really cannot go. And I think we saw in the first half of this game, he tried to go, and it didn't look like the Koa Peat that we knew it to be, or knew him what he could be, and everybody was on his ass, right? What's with these slow starts? Why can't Koa? Are we sure Koa's a top 10 pick? Like, it's like, dude, if the cat's not healthy, the cat's not healthy. And with this type of injury, like that's going to impact his play, especially the way his game is predicated on his physicality and his burst and stuff like that.
I think it's just unfortunate the timing in which that this happened, because this is your gauntlet part of your schedule, and this is when you need all of the dogs. You need everybody, and especially when you play a shorter rotation, especially when a guy is out with an illness, and so yeah, it's tough to lose Koa in this stretch. And I do think that if he needs to sit out versus BYU, I think we can beat BYU without Koa Peat on Wednesday, but I don't think you can beat Houston without Koa Peat back in some capacity. I don't know if he'll be ready for that game. It feels like whatever happened in that ASU game when he was, kind of grimacing and going towards his lower leg, like it's affected him since that moment, and he's been worse for it, since that moment. So unfortunate stuff. We'll continue to monitor the Koa Peat situation. We do have Tommy Lloyd here on Koa Peat. And so we can hear from Arizona's head coach on his update regarding Arizona's star freshman.
And it hurts us a lot, but we had enough to win. We had enough to win. We're up, you're up 7 with, 3 minutes and change to go. You got to find a way to close that out. We didn't. So Texas Tech gets credit for that. But yeah, I mean, it hurts us. It definitely hurts our rotation, and but that's how these seasons go. I mean, it's kind of funny. You're just seeing a lot of it across the nation this week. These seasons are long, they're hard. These kids work hard. These games are physical, and it looks like some of them are starting to get dinged up a little bit. So we'll bounce back, and hopefully, we'll be fully loaded when we need to be.
Yeah, as Tommy often does, we still had enough. It's the Eric Spoelstra that he always did that, Kevin, where you'd be playing in the finals and half the Heat's team would be dead, and then he'd be like, guys, I know we're playing Nikola Jokic, and he is averaging 40 and 20 and 15 right now in this playoff run, but I promise you, we have enough. And you're like, do we? Do we truly? But I do love that mentality out of my basketball coach. So, Tommy, giving you an update on Koa Peat there.
Damon, thank you to you for giving me the opportunity, holding it down up there in Phoenix to let me come down and take all this in, soak all this in. Because you know how much reverence I have for listening to Tommy Lloyd. You know how much I respect his perspective on not only the game of basketball, but quite frankly, the game of life. I think we can learn a lot about life from these coaches. That's not this conversation, though. Guys, I'm going to preface this statement. Everybody here in this chat, you're deep into the show. You must really love either Arizona Wildcats basketball or these two fools on your screen right now. I'll say this much, man. Like, I'm not sure Arizona has enough without Koa Peat. And now, what do I mean by that? I feel like if Arizona's going to win the Big 12, if Arizona's going to make a Elite Eight or better run, you do need Koa Peat at 100%. And I think that's not breaking news to anybody, right? But I think what worries me about the potential of Koa Peat missing 1 or 2 games down this gauntlet of a stretch is that without Koa Peat out there, we talked about him being a hub on offense just a couple nights ago. Even when he's having slow nights scoring the ball, his decision making out of double teams is still better, in my opinion, than Tobe Awaka's. It's still better, in my opinion, than Matias Kvas. He's still more versatile in terms of facilitation than Creas and Awaka. And I think when you lose Koa Peat, Yes, you lose physicality. Yes, you lose, gravity. Yes, you lose a almost, I don't know, how tall is Koa Peat? Almost 6'10" dude
Six
built
eight.
like an Adonis, right? Like you lose all this stuff. You lose all his rim pressure, all that. But you also lose the double teams that teams are devoting to Koa Peat. You also lose the defensive attention that he demands. And I think that if they're going to just send doubles at Mo Krivas, I'm not saying he can't do it, but I'm interested to see how he adjusts to the increase of attention on him and how it relates to him spraying the ball back out to Braden Burries or making a quick decision in the paint. Because as people and you and people in the chat were saying, like, is his quick time decision making good enough right now, Mo Krivas? And this is going to be a good test because the pressure is on right now for him and Tobe Awaka to cover that I don't know, Koa Peat sized hole in the wall right now for Arizona. How do you feel about that, Damon? I'll ask you a question. Do you think Arizona's offense without Koa Peat has enough to beat a BYU, has enough to beat a Houston?
Those are two different questions for me, honestly, because I do think it is enough to
Mm.
beat BYU, especially with the way BYU has been playing recently. And we're going to get into full BYU preview in the early portions of next week. But just a quick glance at BYU and what they've been doing recently, Kevin. I mean, you date back to a game on January 26th against U of A where they lose by 3. They then lose to Kansas. They then lose to Oklahoma State. They then lose to Houston. They then barely squeak out Baylor by 5, a Baylor team that has been pretty terrible.
With
And then
AJ
they beat
Devansa going nuclear in that game, by the way.
absolutely, and then they beat Colorado in OT and they lose Richie Saunders. They're not playing
Mm.
good ball right now. And Arizona, frankly, at home should be able to get the job done even without Koa Peat, in my opinion. As I said previously, I don't think you have any chance of beating Houston without Koa Peat. I really don't. I mean, I think that Houston is what we're going to see from that Texas Tech team at the end of games in late game execution standpoint wise, almost on steroids to me. But you need a guy that can go out there and just bully ball, get his own bucket, or force his way to the line in those late moments in the half court. Or else I think that you're kind of screwed in that game. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I thought that Arizona was going to be able to get the job done in this game fairly easily, and I was wrong on that one. So you don't always get them right, but I think you can beat BYU. That is certainly the way that I feel. I will say though, Tommy Lloyd did talk about the potential to expand the rotation with Koa Peat out and with Dwayne Aristode. Maybe possibly not being ready for that Wednesday game as well. So here's what Tommy had to say on the potential of C.D. Gay and Evan Nelson maybe getting a little bit more minutes.
I think definitely now that we'll see where our numbers end up. We have a better idea. This kind of fell on us pretty fast this last few days. So if we have a little more lead time, yeah, I think we'll definitely want to look at Evan and CD. Kind of some roles that can kind of help give us a little more depth.
Yeah, so potentially could be seeing a little bit of added players to the rotation here. As Saul said it, I don't think that CD Gay is necessarily ready, although the roof was about to blow off of McKale when CD got that bucket over JT Toppin.
True. It felt like a big bucket in the moment.
It did. It did feel like a big bucket in the moment, and it didn't feel like it was maybe the most sustainable of buckets, but it's also good for confidence reasons, I'm sure, to see that go down for him. Evan Nelson, it's like, I'm not saying that you don't need a backup point guard at all, but like in this circumstance with Koa Peat out, you're almost like that's the least valuable thing that we could possibly be offered is a smaller backup point guard. He doesn't really exactly fill the Koa Peat hole that we've been talking about, so that's probably a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, it could be an expanded rotation here for Arizona, according to Tommy Lloyd.
I mean, we need. I mean this sincerely. We need to get Dwayne Aristode his, what do they call it? The Pedialyte. We need to
Yeah,
get him some Pedialyte. We need to get him some chicken noodle soup. We need to
an
get him
IV.
some bread with no butter, no garlic, none of that, just bread. And we need to get him a lot of rest because I think with Koa Peat out, yes, I have concerns about. I'll say, I think to clarify that, like my concerns are that I think the offense might sputter a lot more in these games than it has been without Koa Peat. But defensively, I think you're going to need more from Dwayne Aristode as well because Ivan Karchenkov, we know he's that guy that can step up and guard 1 through 5. And now with Koa Peat out, he's probably going to have to do a lot more guarding 4s and 3s and 5s than he would otherwise. Dwayne Aristode's another, I'll say, high level defensive stopper who can also guard 1 through 4.5, I'll say, right now. So You need him to get right because if Koa's not right, someone's got to step up, and you can't have a six-man rotation. And I love CD Gay. I do think he's going to be a very productive player at the college level and potentially at the pro level somewhere as well. I don't know what his future holds. I don't want to put a ceiling on it, but like Saul said, like that's not respect to CD Gay. That's not enough to win you a Big 12 if you're Arizona, right? To supplant Koa Peat with CD Gay. Now, I think he's more ready than Saul does, but yeah, I agree with Saul. Like Koa, you need Koa Peat to be healthy to have your full deck of cards there, Damon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We do have to give out a love the play of the game sponsored by our friends at Arizona Lottery here before we get out of this one. Man, it's slim pickings when you lose back to back because it just feels so bad, especially when you lose Koa Peat in the process. You can wave me off. That's fine. Go ahead and give me yours then, smart guy.
I have two words for you. Absolute Karchenkov. That dunk and one that he had where he hung on the rim and like swung around like a monkey. Hey, just yelling, screaming like a madman after he got off the rim. I thought about it in the moment. I'm not forgetting this play of the game. Ivan Karchenkov, two hands slam, swing, swing, out. Yell at the fans. Play of the game. We did not win, but I felt like I won in that moment.
Yeah, that was electric. I guess now that that's off the board, I'll go ahead and take the Tobe Awaka 3-pointer, the Dirk Nowitzki special from Tobe Awaka, where he just started letting it rain, and I love to see it. I love Tobe. Pigeon put it up there in the chat. He said like not like in like a weird way, but he thinks he's in love with Tobe Awaka.
I mean, how could you not admire the way Tobe Awaka approaches his profession? I'll say, how could you not admire the way he shows up to work every day? We all have coworkers who, maybe not you and I, right? I think you and I are pretty lucky in the sense that our coworkers are also mostly our friends, right? Like we
Yeah.
would hang out with these people on like a Friday or Sunday or Saturday night on that weekend. Other people are not so lucky, right? And so when you show up to work, you might not know what Damon you're getting on a Monday because he doesn't want to see you. He's just mad to be in the building, right? But that's not Tobe Awaka. Tobe Awaka, I feel like, shows up to work every day with a briefcase and a tie on, is like, I'm ready to do my best, coach. And I feel like that is super admirable. And not only does he, sound like that, he plays like that. I mean, I've only seen this team in person a couple times now this year, but there are two guys that jump off the court immediately to you, right? And they don't need to hit a jumper to do it. Ivan Karchenkov and Tobe Awaka. They're playing 100 miles an hour every time they're out there. They're in full control, and they're dominant when they're good. So, yeah, Tobe Awaka, how could you not love him? Genuinely, how could you not fall in love with that guy?
Before we get on out of here, Kevin, I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about Caleb Love, the entire Caleb Love experience today on Valentine's Day. As I said, love might be dead in Tucson at least. But, your guy, he gets honored. How did you kind of take in that whole thing? And how was just the overall crowd at McKale today?
You'll appreciate this, Damon. They had a Caleb Love presser about 30 minutes before the game. And I came this close to derailing the whole thing and asking him how close the St. Louis guys that are in the league stay in touch. Because it's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate one. Like nobody would have been like, oh, this St. Louis, loser ruining the presser. And it's like, no, it would have been legitimate. But I did ask him about Braden Burries. And he had a pretty thoughtful answer about what Braden Burries is bringing to the table, and he really loves his game. I thought that it was very cool to hear Caleb Love say that coming to Arizona was one of the best decisions he ever made, and that he thinks he will never regret it. And it's one of the best things he's ever done is choose Tucson and choose Tommy Lloyd. And not only that, he still loves this program. And we know that, but this is confirmation, Damon. He watches every game, and if he has a game, he's checking the score at halftime. That is like when we talk about like the program and the standard, that is it, right? Like tonight we had two Wildcats in the finals of the NBA dunk contest, and we had Caleb Love getting inducted into the Ring of Honor and telling us that he checks on Arizona games at halftime of his NBA game. White Burrito, where are you at? Because this is your moment to get in here and be like, see, there's nothing bigger than Arizona. You can leave it, but it's not leaving you. So, yeah, it was awesome to hear Caleb Love just talk about, his time here with so much reverence and so much love. And then to hear the pop for him when he came out there was incredible. I think it was Damian Almeida asked him about, what his grandfather would think of this achievement, and you could see it on Caleb's face of like, man, he'd be so proud of me. He would tell me, "This is only the beginning." I think is what you kind of said there, and yeah, if Arizona was able to get a W tonight on either the women's or the men's side, I think this whole thing would have been like, wow, the Caleb Love night, and you get a win over Texas Tech, and it's this lovey-dovey Valentine's Day. But I still think that the Caleb Love experience tonight was special. It was really cool, especially for a guy that it might not have ended that way if he chose a different school, And I'm not saying he wouldn't have put in the work, but you get what I'm saying with that. Context matters. And the way he left UNC, he needed like a structure. He needed that.
Yeah. And I don't know that Juwan Howard and Michigan were that structure for him. They've since rebounded.
How's Juwan Howard doing these days at Michigan, Damon?
I mean, Juwan Howard's an assistant coach in the NBA again.
I don't know. But I'm saying, like, I'm backing up your point, is that it didn't work out for Juwan Howard at Michigan, and I don't think Caleb Love is saving him at Michigan.
And I was answering your question. I thought that we were playing off of each other there.
Oh no, I was doing ad libs in the back. I was like, yeah, and another thing. My guy Damon knows it all. But yeah, continue knowing it all.
Yeah, of course, I will. I will never stop knowing it all here on this podcast. Kevin, that's great. I'm glad you got to see the Caleb Love experience in person. Really cool stuff there. I do have to end this podcast on a sour note, though, and this is a surprise. And this is something that I was debating even coming out and saying, but because we're an hour and 26 minutes in, because there's me, you, and 81 of our closest friends and family here in the chat as we do our blood brothers and sisters celebration late into the podcast. But this was the first time all season that I sat there, Kevin, and I watched our team play, and I said to myself, man, I miss Henry Vassar. Man, I miss Henry Vassar. Because I think Arizona wins that game with Henry Vassar out there tonight. I really do. I think that he was the guy, when you think about it, based off last season, he was the closer. Like, he was the guy that in every closing moment was making an electric dunk on somebody, was blocking a shot. He was making game-changing plays late in games last year. And not to like say that, he hasn't been fantastic, and I think that we've eaten a lot of crow, and rightfully so, on what Mo Creas has done this season. But I don't think that Creas has looked great, at least in the last couple games, from a closing standpoint. It seems like he kind of gets a little bit jumpy. Like, he starts freaking out a little bit. He lets the moment get to him, and we're giving up offensive rebounds to Kansas, to Texas Tech, left and right. I always felt like Vassar was getting the big rebound as well. And yeah, that was just a sad, horrible, awful thought that I had in watching this one that I needed to share with everybody here.
Under that same umbrella, but on the other side of it, this is a funny version of that, Damon. I was, like I said, watching the last, couple minutes of the game in overtime with Juan Serrano and Justin Spears, and we were joking about like, hey, so Carter Bryant still got eligibility for sure, right?
Yeah.
Anybody interested? We're down a wing right now. Actually, we're down a couple. The guy was just in the he looks pretty good to me. Anyway, to go back to what you were actually trying to talk to me about was Henry Vassar. He is an incredible player. Like, he is so talented. Henry Vassar, hashtag what a player, right? Like, I think, for me personally, the first couple games of the season, and this has nothing to do with the team that Arizona's putting out on the court, and more so my fandom of Henry Vassar as a player. The first couple games, I'm like, man, I wish that I could be watching that guy for my team every night again. But we've been pretty successful without him. And I think tonight, sure, you could have used a couple extra big plays in this one for certain. But it's not like you're short of guys that can do that. Jayden Bradley can make some plays down the stretch. I think Tobe Awaka can make plays down the stretch. Koa Peat, if he's in the game, we saw that fadeaway mid-range he can hit in big moments. Like, Arizona's not, devoid of playmakers, but yeah, you're right. Having an all-conference candidate guy out there would have helped tonight for sure.
Yeah, it's not exactly the rocket science of sports takes, but I do think that Creas was kind of he's proven to be a really good opener. Like he really starts games off hot, and I think he kind of
Reverse
takes
Koa
over.
Peat.
And Vassar almost does the like. I'm not saying he starts off games cold, but it felt like Vassar would take over games late in games last season for Arizona, and that verticality really played in those moments from a pick and roll standpoint, from maybe getting an offensive rebound or a putback, and also at North Carolina, does it not feel like he's always the guy who's making the big shot for them in all of these massive games? It's always him. He's drilling threes against Duke to complete comeback victories. Like the guy is just ice cold in big moments, and I really feel like that is something that we're missing a little bit with this team, because it feels like when Jayden Bradley doesn't have it, it's not as we don't have a lot of guys that are really stepping up in the half court in the big moments. Braden Burries aside, because Braden Burries has been very good, and even in a game where he wasn't exceptional tonight, he was still good and contributing and helpful to the team and wasn't hurting you. So Braden Burries aside, when Bradley's not hitting these shots, it feels like you're losing a lot in way of help at the end of games, in my opinion. And that was a guy that just made me feel safe, Kevin. He made me feel safe. But
there's nothing more you want on Valentine's Day, right?
That's just an hour 30 podcast thoughts that group therapy, Valentine's therapy session. But we got to end this one out. We got to talk a lot about Arizona rebounding against BYU.
Before we do, real quick note before you hit your expert outro that I'm going to let you do. This is the
I was
actual
gonna
last
let
time
you
I
talk
interrupt
again,
you.
brother. I promise you.
Oh, my bad.
Kevin was not gonna just have no words for the rest of the show.
I just wanted to talk about the environment. You know what I mean? Because you and I, we make a lot of it being guys that work, 5-7 days a week out in Phoenix. We make a lot about the environment on these TV shows and stuff like that. But the environment tonight, we called out, Arizona fans, we called out the McKale Center at Alchemy Arena, right, to get packed, to get loud for this game. And they did exactly that, man. There were a couple times, like, I have not been in this arena for every game this year. Right? I have not. But I would doubt that it's gotten more loud than that, like, often. Like, it was packed in here. The fans, old, young, infant, elderly, didn't matter. They were getting loud. They felt the ebbs and the flows of the game, as McKale crowds always do. But this one was packed to the brim. This one had just witnessed Becky Burke's squad go to war with Molly Miller. They wanted blood, Damon, and I wanted to give credit to the crowd because they really showed up tonight. I felt like they really tried to spur on the Wildcats, and it was deafening in here, especially when Tobe Awaka hit that three. It was the roof could have popped off. Like Ivan Karchenkov, the way that he conducts the crowd throughout the game is incredible. Just a great environment. You had everybody at this game, it felt like. Trey Townsend, Mixmaster Mike, Caleb Love for obvious reasons. Some of the football team was here, just like in the regular seats, just like they showed up. Like Trey Spivey, some of his teammates were here as well. So incredible night for the McKale faithful. Incredible night for the brand, I feel like, of McKale Center and being like a place to watch a basketball game. Like if you're a Texas Tech fan, you must have came out of here thinking that's a pretty high level place to watch a game, right? And I think we need more of that as we face some of these storied Big 12 teams.
Certainly so. McKale Center, feels like it was always going to be a big game in which the fans were going to show out. And unfortunately, you weren't able to reward those fans with a W tonight. But yeah, we live and we learn, and we got BYU another big game against a ranked caliber team. I think they might have just fallen out of the rankings on Wednesday here. So time to bounce back against BYU. Time to put belt to ass against BYU yet again, Kevin, because nothing I love more. You know me. Other than ASU, other than beating up on Lil Bro, there's nothing I love more than beating BYU. And I think Arizona is going to be able to get the job done. We'll get into that game all throughout the early stages of the week on Monday and Tuesday at 2 p.m. here on this very same channel, PHNX Sports. Of course, you can follow my guy Kevin at KevoPost. That's KEVOPOSTS. And then you can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG on the end of that guy. Of course, follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. Follow our TikTok at AZ Wildcats Pod. And Kevin, anything else before we get you on out of here and get you back up to the Valley? I know you're trying to leave Tucson as fast as possible, brother.
Woo! Can't wait to be back in super cement Phoenix. That's gonna be awesome. But no, I think we do have maybe one or two super chats potentially to get to.
We have one. We have one from AZ Catch G.
Okay.
Classic
I mean, you
buzzer
already know.
beater. $2. Good job, guys. Kevin, you look extra smooth tonight. That's because my boy was getting his hair did in Tucson with his peeps.
Yeah, I got my hair did, but my barber. This is like sitcom level irony. I wait all this time to get a haircut because my barber resides in Tucson, the one I actually trust. I hit him up yesterday. He's like, I'm not going to be in Tucson. I'm in Phoenix this weekend.
Oof.
Okay, bro. Okay. I guess I'll just not get a haircut. I don't know. But yeah, no. I did get my hair done a couple days ago. But I think it's this Brett Gleason SID lighting in this room.
Absolutely. I mean, the Brett Gleason glow up. That's what we call it.
I mean, honestly, I'm not going to show off his office. This is not my space, and I don't know what else he got in here. But I will say he has a ton of sick memorabilia, like bobbleheads on bobbleheads on bobbleheads, posters on posters. It's awesome. It's an Arizona Wildcat and just sports memorabilia fans' dream in Brett Gleason's office. So shout out to Brett for having some good taste and letting me use his office on vacation, by the way.
Kevin, enough gesture maxing. My cortisol levels are spiking over here.
Oh, dude, I'm just frame mogging right now.
We got frame mogged tonight. I'll go out and I'll come out and say it. We got frame mogged tonight. We got frame mogged against Kansas, and it's time to bounce back in the next one. And I can't wait to talk about that game. I can't wait to get this nasty taste out of my mouth, Kevin. And we need BYU to help us with that endeavor. So appreciate everybody for watching this podcast. We'll be back on Monday, Tuesday at 2 p.m. like I said. And then, of course, Wednesday, we got BYU pregame and postgame show. So be there for that. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Follow my guy, Kevin. Follow me. Follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. And we will catch you on Monday's edition of the PHNX or the AZ Wildcats pod. Until then, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. It has been a pleasure to celebrate love on Valentine's Day.
We all silly like the mayor.